One of the best foreign trips I got when I was at the Independent was to Romania at the time of the revolution. In fact, the revolution, Ceausescu had been overthrown by the time I got there. I think I travelled on the day after Christmas in, when was it, 1989. Uh, Managed to get to Budapest by plane. Then I got a train to Bucharest. And anyway, it was all very complicated. The thing was still up in the air. Remnants of the old regime were sort of taking pot shots at people. But within a week or so, the whole thing had settled down. The environment was very grim. It was, lighting was at half strength, little food around, lots of journalists chasing lots of different stories. But eventually it became quiet enough for me to pursue my particular interest, which was to find Dracula's castle. And so with a old colleague of mine, Michaela Wrong of Reuters, and my translator, and I think there are another few people in tow, I said, look, forget all this fantasy stuff about Dracula. The real castle of Vlad Dracul is a place called Târgoviște, which is just outside Romania. I said, and I want to go there to see what it's all about, right? So we got up one morning at 6 o'clock, and it was snowy and it was horrible. And I think we got some sort of underground train there. We arrived at Târgoviște, covered in snow, sort of peasants heaving their way through the streets, looking just as if they'd come straight out of a Dracula movie, And there's a big statue of Vlad Dracul in the middle of the square. And then we made a few inquiries, and we discovered that there was actually a Vlad Dracul museum. So we thought, right, this is it, starting point. We went round to the Vlad Dracul museum, and there was a very large Soviet-looking woman at the front door who said, no, go away, no. It's closed. And we said, no, we're foreign journalists. We really want to see the museum. So she allowed us in. And we got talking through our translator. And this woman had obviously been a paid-up member of the Communist Party until about 2 days before. But like everybody else at that point, she was denouncing the regime. But she wasn't denouncing Vlad Dracul because she said, oh, no, he's our great national hero. He saved us from the Turks, blah, 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 blah. She said, but this nonsense you have in the West about Dracula and Vlad Dracul, she's absolutely rubbish. And we said, well, how do you mean? She said this idea that, Vlad Dracul was a man who sort of bit virgins in the neck and then they started growing long teeth and stuff. She said, it's complete nonsense. There's no such thing. And I said, what, no such thing as a vampire? She said, absolutely not. No such thing as a vampire. She said, mind you, there are creatures who come down the chimney to steal away young women, but that's a completely different thing. So I said, fine. Thanks for clearing that one up. So anyway, we'd had such a fun time at the museum. We asked her directions to the castle. And so we walked along, trudged through the snow, and we came to the ruins of this castle. And this is the original Vlad Dracul castle. Don't be put off by the Romanian tourist board who stick it somewhere in Transylvania. It ain't true. It's there in Wallachia, and it's a bit of a ruined site. So we get there, and there's a caretaker with a fur hat, and a young girl. I'd say she was out of the movie. She would be the idiot girl, but that would be politically incorrect. But you get the picture. And she's sweeping away the snow, and the caretaker says, "No, go away, go away, go away." And the translator says, no, look, they're foreign journalists. And I produce a packet of cigarettes and hand him a ton of cigarettes. And he starts talking, So he tells us about the castle, more praise for Vlad Dracul, etc., etc. Because the castle is on the very point where Vlad Dracul impaled like 50,000 Turks during his fight against the the Ottoman Empire. And so he's telling us where this is. Oh, this is where the Turks were staked out, blah, blah, blah. He said, funnily enough, he said, it's also the place where Ceaușescu was caught and then dragged off and executed. And we said, no, you're pulling our leg. We said, you know, the revolutionary authorities have said he was captured somewhere completely differently, you know, and then put on trial. He said, no. He said, I saw it all happen. He said, Ceaușescu was dragged out of the car just down the bottom of the hill there and carted off to a building next to the railway station, summarily tried and executed. So he said, this sounds a bit of a tall story to us. Anyway, we visited the castle and we wandered off to the only sort of bar cafe that was functioning in the town. And it was straight out of a Dracula movie, you know. It was sort of steamy and smoky and all these people sitting around in fur coats. I wouldn't say there was garlic hanging from the rafters, but it was pretty much like that, you know. So we said, well, this story about Ceaușescu being killed doesn't sound right. And then I suddenly spotted a young army officer clearly sitting there having a glass of brandy with his parents. And I said to the translators, nip over and ask that army officer about this Ceaușescu story. So he went over and he came back with the guy. And the guy said, yeah, I was there. He said, I was there when the firing squad killed him. And it was definitely the building next to the station. So then we go around to the building and everyone says, yeah, everybody knows that. Ceaușescu was killed here. So he had this fantastic scoop, you know, finally identifying where and when the dictator was captured and bumped off, purely because of my interest in Dracula.